Now we will go to the third presenters, which is Dr. Hiroko Kushimoto. She converted into Islam in 2007 when she was in Kedah doing her PhD, entitled Transformation of the Culture of Islamic Learning, Anthropological Analysis of Malay Muslim Society. She is currently serving as an assistant professor at the Faculty of Language and Management, University Islam International Islamic University, Malaysia. School education, she completed her master degree in Tokyo Gakugei University Language and Doctor of Philosophy at the Tokyo University of Foreign Studies.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for the organizer to invite me to this conference as a speaker. It's really my honor to speak in front of these great ulamas. I have never talked in front of this kind of audience. So I am a person who never get tension too much in front of many audience, but today I am very much tension. So, inshallah, I am going to talk about how to look at the problem of the Muslim society, not about Islam itself. Okay, so that I can at least give a little bit small contribution to what you can think, how you can think about the problems of what happening in Muslim society. Yeah. I just want to ask if I should speak in Malay or English. English, okay, yeah. As far as there are audience who understand better in English. Okay, so I continue and I ask the Malay translators to translate my English to Malay. Okay, so I want to share rather than to preach. I don't have anything to preach in the front of these great ulamas, but I want to share my perspective about how the problems in Muslim society looks like for my Japanese eyes. Okay, next. So can I begin with? Okay. Okay. Can I raise my hand when I go to the next slide, or when I want you to click? Okay. 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 Thanks. Okay. Can I begin with who am I in front of you? I was born as a non-Muslim, as in a non-Muslim family, and my family is totally not religious. They are like not secularists, but they are not religious at all. Okay? Then I was interested in anthropology as my major, okay, which is for me it is. Click, please. Okay, a study to question what is something taken for granted in my society. Okay? This is anthropology for me. I wanted to question what I think is normal. It's not normal for somebody. Okay? So that's why I was interested in this ilmu. Then I tried to think about what is education. Okay? I was forced to go for examination. I was forced to go to the school. Then sometimes I didn't like. Yeah, most of the time I didn't like. So I wanted to think, is it normal? Is it a must or not? So I tried to think about this topic. Can you go back? Can you go back a bit? Can you go back? Okay, I wanted to think about this topic. What is education? How does it look like if I look through the perspective of Muslim? Okay, I tried to think about this topic when I was non-Muslim. I wanted to think about education through Muslims' eyes. Okay, then next, I spent about at first, let's say 2 years among Muslims in a Muslim city in Pondok in Kedah. I tried to spend, as a non-Muslim yet, okay, I tried to spend some time with the very religious family in a religious school to know about the concept and ideas about Islamic perspective on education. Okay? And then I tried to look at this thing, education, I was excited to find something very different. Okay, Eva can go. Okay, click, please. Okay, what I saw was somehow it was quite similar to Japan or even more modern than Japan. What does it mean? It seems quite like the people seem to be very, let's say, controlled by the modern education system. Okay, that was what I found in Malaysia and among Muslims. But so I wanted to find a very different idea about education. I expected it. The Muslims should have something different from us, who was Japanese. Okay? But I didn't find it for a long time until I found the breakthrough with the idea of Professor al-Attas. Okay? Here I found something critical eyes on to look at the modern education system. Okay? So the idea of Islamization of knowledge was very interesting for me as a critical perspective to look at the modern education, something wrong in education. Okay? Oh. So finally, I received Hidayah. Then I converted I entered Muslim. I embraced Islam at Prof. Nakib's house at the time, with the presence of Professor Wan. Okay, so that was my my moment. I was born again. Okay, next. Okay, so as a scholar, as a PhD student, I wanted to find out what happened to the education in the Muslim societies. Not only in the Muslim societies, but also in other societies that experienced colonization. I can see the same phenomenon when the pre-modern education was there. Of course, the human being was educating the children and next generation for a long time. Of course, there was education. But when it was colonized by some colonial power, education system that we have now was imported or imposed. Okay? Then it appears to be a new education system which uses the language of the colonizer, which have the contents defined by the colonizer, and the system defined by the colonizer, and the value system as well. It is not only in the Muslim society, but also in other society colonized, including Japan. Okay, next. So I wanted to find out the problem of the modern education in former colonies. What happens in the process of the decolonization when they got independent? Did they succeed to achieve something special for their education or not? Okay, now let's see. Colonial education system had language, either French, English, or whatever the colonizer's language, and content system, value system. So after independence, was it replaced to something original to these people or not? Okay, let's see the language. We can see in many countries, the system of education, the language was changed to the national language. We can find many examples in the former colonies, of course. Yeah, then also the contents was changed to be more suitable for the history, for example, of the national history was rewritten. Okay? It was before the history was written through the perspective of the colonizers, but the history was rewritten from the perspective of nationalists, let's say. Okay? However, if we look at the system itself, not so much was changed. And more on the value system below the education system, is there any change? Just like they changed the language to the national language? I cannot find much examples that try to change the basis or the value system below the education. I couldn't find much examples. So then even in the reform in the global era now, it looks like even we are trying to just go back to the colonial system using English as the major language. Just as I have to deliver the speech in English. And then all in English, or we have to follow the value system of the Western countries. We have to present our papers in the Scopus Index journals. That is a must for us. So it looks like just going back to the colonial time. Okay, so next. So the problem one I just pointed out when I found that the education in Malaysia among Muslims didn't look too much different from the Japanese one. Not only that, the recent reform in the global era to achieve the competition in the global scale looks like to producing even additional problem. Okay, next. Okay, I was looking for the critical perspective to analyze this kind of situation. How can I discuss as a scholar? Then what I could find was not originally from the Muslim scholars. I wanted to find some discussion among the Muslim scholars to revive the value system below the education system that follow the Islamic way of thinking, but I hardly find. Okay? So, but instead, what I found was more in the discussion of the post-colonial studies produced in Western countries. The most prominent example was Orientalism. That is a must reading for all human scientists. It was Science Orientalist. Okay, it was published in 1978 to criticize the process of production of knowledge that is controlled by those who have the power. Produced wrong image about Islam, and then it was disseminated as a knowledge. Okay, then this kind of studies to reveal this kind of continuous domination of the idea, of the way of thinking, is much discussed with keywords such as power and knowledge, or hegemony, and so on. I can see many examples among the non-Muslim Western scholars. Then what about the Muslim scholars' discussion? Okay. Okay, before I go to the Muslim scholars' discussion, this kind of perspective was applied again in the Western scholarship to analyze what happened to the Muslim society. One of the prominent examples is the study of the Timothy Mitchell, studied about the history of education in Egypt. Okay, he analyzed how for example, al-Azhar in 19th century was seen or labeled as lack of system. There is no system in Azhar's education, even though there should be a system. Somehow there should be a system, but it was for the modern Egyptian eyes, there was no system. Then it was changed to something like system in the modern education system. Okay, so he revealed this kind of process as colonizing process of Egypt. Okay, so these kind of studies are there, so many of these kind of studies. Then I was so interested in this kind of study, but I hardly found such studies which is done by Muslim scholars to analyze this process of historical development of education. Okay, next. So, but when I read discussion of Professor al-Attas, I found very similar perspective. Okay, which is, I quote one part of his writing, which criticized that knowledge is not neutral. Okay, it seems to me important to emphasize that knowledge is not neutral and can indeed be infused with nature and content, which masquerades as knowledge. It's pseudo-knowledge. And, but it's interpreted through, it's not true knowledge, but it's interpretation through the person, as it were, the worldview, the intellectual vision, and psychological perception of the civilization that have now plays a key role in its formulation and dissemination. So for me, it looks exactly same call for the review of how the knowledge is produced, disseminated, just like what Edward Said pointed out in Orientalism. Okay, so here I can see very much similarity in his discussion, and the timing Prof. Nakib started this discussion was almost the same time with the Orientalism. Okay, so next. Okay, can you go back? Can you go back? So it can be paraphrased with the knowledge is not neutral, can be translated into education system is not neutral too. Okay, so system like have a grades, have a year-end exam, this kind of system looks transparent, it looks neutral at a glance. But actually it is infused with certain value system. We can be careful about it. Okay, then it will lead to the changing idea of the religious authority that even causes me as not a Muslim, not an Islamic scholar at all, to talk in front of you, these great ulamas. Only, inshallah, will be in the future. But yeah, even only with the reason that I have graduated postgraduate school with a doctor's name. Okay, I can be in front of you, even though I have much less knowledge compared to you. Okay, so there is something wrong, which can be which can be summarized as a loss of adab. It can be happened because of this education system. Okay, next. Okay, very simplified question. My question to be simplified in this way. Before, a very simple discussion. Before there was Islamic education based on Islamic idea. But after colonization, there is a system of education based on the colonial worldview. Okay? So now what we want? Now what happened? After certain years of independence, we can find many Islamic contents in the education. I am serving for an international Islamic university. It is Islamic. We have a lot of courses on fiqh, hadith, and so on. We have so many. And the public schools, Malaysian schools, have the Islamic studies course. We have so many Islamic contents, but if we look at the shape or the basis of the education which is talking about Islam, is it really Islamic or not? I still have a question. Okay, so can you open it? Excuse me. Okay, yeah, one more. Yeah, is our education based on Islamic worldview or something else? It still can be questioned, even when we are teaching about Islam, but basis, do we have Islamic basis or not? This is still my unsolved question. I'm just sharing with you without answer. Okay, next. So what I did for my study, on my own study in detail, was examination of this process, what happened in Malaysia. What I found in a very simple way was first, when they accepted the modern system of education to teach about Islam, there was no discussion, no question from the ulama, surprisingly. They just accepted something new because they thought this is better. Okay? Then one of the reasons why Malaysian scholars, Malaysian ulamas was so easy to accept this modern education system was because of the existence of al-Azhar. This is my finding. Because al-Azhar accepted or partly maybe forced to have the modern system in the early 20th century. Then Malaysian scholars saw what Azhar is doing, then Azhar is better than Malaysia, then they just imported it. So this is my conclusion from my study of history in Malaysia. And then what happened in the post-colonial time? There was a call for Islamization. There was a call for integration between the Islamic learning and the modern school education. Then it was very successful. Now we have many Islamic schools, many Islamic subjects. And we can even easily take the doctoral courses and Islamic studies. This is very good compared to the Japanese situation. I cannot imagine it to happen. Okay, so this is very good, and I really appreciate who are working for it. But still, we can still question if the basis is, content is Islamic, but basis is Islamic or not, we can still question on it. Okay, next. Okay, so just a very simple example, like if we look at the school textbook and the Islamic education, okay, last time we were using this kind of kitab Jawi, written in Jawi, no pictures and so on. So there is no implication for national development and so on. But now we can see the picture in the Petronas Twin Towers to inculcate more on nationalism through the Islamic studies. And then one of the examples is the explanation of the concept of taqwa. Okay? Taqwa will lead to success. That is good. But what does it mean by success? It is given this picture. This is the picture of success. What happened to this family? Is the child got a good result in the examination. That is a success. Is that the result of taqwa really or not? So that is, I'm not accusing those who are making this interpretation. Of course, it is right. This is a success, and this is good to have a good result in education, of course. Okay, but is there any, what the professor talked about, the subtle silk? Is there any element of this subtle silk or not? This is my question. I'm not judging, but this is just my question as former non-Muslim. And this kind of phenomena can be examined very in detail, maybe. Okay, next. Okay, so what I can suggest in the end is we should study the different areas to identify what is the exact problem of the education in the Muslim society. First, of course, we have to know what is the concept of education in Islam. Then this is what all over you can do. I am not able to do as a Muslim Islamic scholar, so we'll do this job. But at the same time, we can collaborate with the study of the history first, and the study of the society, maybe anthropology, sociology, this kind of studies can help to analyze what exactly happened in the Muslim societies, not only in Malaysia, but in other countries too. Then one of the things, very small box I put here is actually I'm very interested in what happened to the Sufism, because this is one of the points which is eliminated through the modernization process from the education. I believe that in many of the countries, Sufism was a integrated part of Islamic learning. We cannot omit it. But Sufism was somehow eliminated through the modern system. We can clearly see that from the evolution of the curriculum, even from Azhar and other Islamic schools. Where is Sufism now? Then why modern education cannot integrate Sufism? This may explain one perspective of the nature of the education today. So that's why I'm very interested in what is happening in Sufism now. So I may visit some of your organization. I'm advertising myself. If I come to you, please accept me to do some research in your organizations. Thank you very much. So this is, so just my last message to not limit the concept of Islamization of knowledge to be a crazy idea of Muslim to misuse the science. It looks like that if we misuse that term. But I believe Islamization of knowledge will contribute to reveal the basis of the education. What is the nature of the modern education that will benefit not only Muslims but also non-Muslims? Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. Assalamu alaikum.